Does God have a conscience? Fractalfires think so. Take a look at these comments. Now I want to say that this is primarily not about refuting fractalfires, but that fractalfires has given me a great opportunity to teach. Why does God even need a conscience? He is alone in eternity. The idea of a conscience presupposes other beings of equal value that God must interact with. Would Fractal want to say there are other beings in eternity equal to our God? A conscience is given to us by God to guide our actions toward other men and towards God. If God is alone in eternity, what is the use of His conscience? Can God steal from Himself, lie, cheat, kill, covet, lust, worship? Who, what, for all eternity? And what being greater than God gave Him this conscience? Did God need this conscience for the 6,000-year blip on the radar screen of eternity? To know how to deal with man? No, God is other. We are created. God does not need a conscience in dealing with us. Whatever He does to us, for us, against us is right, just because of who He is. Let me give an example. God has given us a conscience. But should our conscience convict us for killing a cockroach? No, we are far above a cockroach, and yet we both are created things by the same God. Our conscience means nothing between man and a cockroach, but it does between man, and even more so from man to God. You see the difference? Let's take this even farther. Should our conscience convict us for crushing a clay figure we have made? No, we formed the clay with our own hands, and we can destroy it if we want. And again, God even created the clay. We didn't. As far as man is above a cockroach, and even farther above the inanimate clay, God is infinitely above us. So again I ask, what does God need a conscience for? Certainly not to keep Him from wronging us. His very position of being God, being infinitely greater than we are, renders it impossible for Him to wrong us. So no matter what He does to us, it is right. No matter how much we scream and yell and howl that we don't like it, God is right. Now Fractal seems to think that God, without this conscience to guide Him, could not have been holy for all eternity. Well, that is because he mistakenly thinks holiness is primarily sinlessness. But if everything God does is right because God does it, then by definition, God would be sinless and therefore holy. But holiness, when referring to God, is not primarily sinlessness. Let's let Paul Washer explain.
The meaning of the word holy. The meaning of the word holy is so very, very important. The basic root, if we were to reduce it down the farthest we could reduce it, it would be to mean to cut. To cut. And I like to use the illustration of a woman or a man who loves to nose his way around the kitchen will put out a wooden cutting board and then maybe lay a carrot on that cutting board and begin to cut. But as they cut, they not only cut with the knife, but then use the knife to do what? To separate out. To cut and to separate. To cut and to separate. And the idea of holy, more than anything else, means this idea of being cut off and being separate on into being distinct, unique, separate. As we see here in Exodus 15:11, who is like you among the gods? And of course it's a rhetorical question, and the answer is no one. And throughout Scripture we will hear this over and over. There is no one like the Lord. Absolutely no one. Now, I need to address something that's very important, and please understand me. It's a difficult thing to communicate, but it's very, very important. If I were to ask you, what is the first thing that pops into your mind when you hear the word holy? It would probably be sinlessness, moral perfection, There's no shadow or there's no variation in God. He is morally perfect. Well, then let me ask you this question. When I say the word righteous, what pops into your mind? Well, sinless. Well, there's a problem there. In the word holy is found the sinlessness of God and the moral purity of God. But holiness means so much more than that. And if you don't understand the first part, you can't understand the second part. Above every other thing, holiness means that God is distinct. He is unique. He is separated unto Himself. He is not common or vulgar or profane. He is unique, sacred. 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 That there is no one like the Lord in absolutely everything. You must understand this. And someone asked me one time when I was speaking about this, a student raised his hand and said, well, then how come every time the word holiness is mentioned just about, it also talks about His sinlessness? And I said, well, when you're dealing in the context of a corrupt, fallen world, if you were to say God was distinct, what would be the first thing that would come up? He is not sinful like everyone else. But it means much more than just He is without sin. It means that He is transcendent, that He is above absolutely everything and separated from absolutely everything. And this idea of holiness is manifested in every one of the attributes of God. Now, how is that? Well, let's just look for a moment. The triune nature of God is an expression of His holiness. Well, how is that? Well, what creature in heaven or on earth or under the earth is such a being so marvelous and mysterious, infinitely beyond our comprehension? Is there anyone like Him in His being? Of course there is not. We go on, that God is Spirit is an expression of His holiness. Is there any creature as free and boundless as God? Of course there's not. He's holy. And then we go on to His perfection. It's an expression of His holiness. In what way? Is there any creature so flawless, so perfect as God? No. He is distinct. He is in a complete other category. We go on. His eternity, His self-existence, His immutability, His omnipotence, His omnipresence, His omniscience, His righteousness, all of those things are expressions of His holiness. There is none like the Lord. Now, I need to say something. The distinction between God and His creation is very, very important for us to understand. And I always use this illustration. It's a bit crude, but it works. I'm going to give you two creatures to think about. And I want you to tell me which one of those creatures is more like God. The great seraphim standing in the presence of God crying out, holy, holy, holy. Or the tiny single-celled creature floating around in your bathtub. Which one is more like God? The answer is neither. That glorious archangel in heaven whose glory is so great that it would explode our minds and our hearts if we caught just a glimpse of Him is no closer to being like God than the smallest microbe on the face of the earth. No one is like the God of Scripture. And this is something that we must understand. It is not a quantitative difference. God is not like us, just bigger and better. It is a qualitative difference. He's not like us at all. And it is in this knowledge that such things as the fear of God come. We are dealing with someone. You think Mount Sinai was marked off? When we're talking about the person of God, we are talking about, as one old Jewish theologian used to say, the otherness of God. He is completely completely other.